are live with OG Stick High. Get your blunts ready. Get your drink ready. It's about to go down.
Everybody ready for the most part? I want to thank you for being here today. It's so very important on an occasion that some may think is a celebration for our community, but really it's been a rather bittersweet moment because it represents an affirmation of sorts, but it's also symbolic of the continued struggle that these families, victims of police brutality, misconduct, excessive force, racial profiling, civil rights violations, continuing to endure. Why are we here? We're here because yesterday the Department of Justice issued a lengthy report after close to half a decade of investigating that says, in fact, that all of these families and their attorneys and their advocates and their supporters in the community were telling the absolute truth about the horrors they were being exposed to in this community at the hands of the Phoenix Police Department. The Department of Justice report, as you have undoubtedly read, had specifically Black Americans at the forefront of every negative statistic in the report. This has been an attack against all communities of color, all communities of conscience, but it has been focused, incredibly focused campaign of terror and pain, particularly on Black Americans that are residing in the city of Phoenix. We're going to hear from some other folks, but we want to add some context to the discussion that has gone on around this. It's not like we're in, Louisville, Clanville, Bip Bap, Georgia or something. We're in Phoenix, Arizona, and at least 7 members of the Phoenix City Council are supposed to be also members of the Democratic Party. This is not Donald Trump's Department of Justice. This is Joseph Robinette Biden's Department of Justice that is saying that the city of Phoenix is guilty of violating the civil rights, the human rights, taking the life of people, manufacturing evidence against people, incriminating people, suppressing the First Amendment, terrorizing people because their skin is black or brown or red. It doesn't make sense that any of certainly the Latino people on the city council continue to punish these families by refusing to make justice-oriented decisions that would allow them to move on with their lives because they represent either themselves being injured or because their loved ones have been injured at the hands of Phoenix police. And that includes our mayor, who has a brown son. While she is in fact white, her son is not. And so it's very difficult to understand how they cannot see the humanity that's suffering and in pain because of what has gone on as a result of the Department of Justice's investigation. If I may quickly mention also to the hundreds of activists, and Kim McKinney is here with me. She represents such a big part of the grassroots effort at organizing some of the large-scale demonstrations we saw in the city. There are so many hundreds of activists that were made victims of, espionage and intimidation, and that 126-page report does not represent the thousands of documents underneath it, where police were targeting people, especially civil rights activists, leaders, church leaders, attorneys, putting us almost on what is in essence a watch list or a hit list, all for standing up for people, trying to criminalize activists and make them out to be part of street gangs or saying that we're trying to undermine the police department or destroy local government. We are just people who are in love with the Constitution and the ideas of freedom and equality under the law, which are supposed to be, the most fundamental American principles. So to have the DOJ have to come in and say that folks like that were being targeted, it's very disconcerting. But the work will and does continue. One of the worst things in that report was that they said we're still in danger. So even as we stand here today, having had the Department of Justice convey just how awful things were here, and I mean worse, you would think we were in Detroit or Philadelphia or something like that. No, right here in Phoenix, right here in whitewashed Phoenix. So worst examples of civil rights violations the DOJ has seen anywhere in the country. Phone's been ringing off the hook talking to Sharpton, Jackson, everybody in the country shocked at what has happened here. But we're not shocked because we live here. All of these families and folks experienced this. And what we got from Chief Sullivan and from Chief Williams and Yonner and Garcia and all of them as they fell like dominoes on their lies is that these people were lying. All that we get from the Phoenix City Council and from City Hall is that these people are not telling the truth. That their sons and daughters, that mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and cousins and nieces and uncles and aunts and grandparents even, and children are being assaulted, murdered, maimed, and abused by the Phoenix Police Department. And it's just clear now. It's so clear with the DOJ report. It's not up for debate. It's not up for an argument. The city owes these families an apology. And more than that, they owe them literally and figuratively millions of dollars because of the injuries they've sustained, the deaths they've sustained, the losses they've sustained. It's really quite disgusting. Again, it's a sad day for our community because we have liberal political leaders that want to keep this plantation alive. And we're not going to have it. It's going to be another long, hot summer. But the DOJ has said we were right, that they were wrong, including some members of the media who gave them the benefit of the doubt. That has been wiped away by the sanitizing light of that Department of Justice report. And so, on behalf of these families and our community, if hell breaks loose in this city, it's certainly the blame is to be left on the footsteps of City Hall. Sign the consent decree. Sign the consent decree. Sign the consent decree. Why do we have to go to federal court? Why are we paying Steptoe and other firms millions of dollars to litigate this to an outcome that we already know is going to happen? The federal government will take control of the city of Phoenix with respect to the police department, and they're not going to get it back for a very long time, and they shouldn't have it back. They shouldn't have it back because when they did have the power, all they did, at least for a decade, and we know it went on longer than that, all they did was allow black people to be abused, and then they tried to cover it up. They tried to cover it up. But that's after they incentivized attacking us. They patted each other on the back and gave each other racist awards for beating down black folks and for killing people, for murdering people. The DOJ fell short in one area, and that is these deaths. If you violated someone's civil rights and you violated, their constitutional rights, and you violated them as a human being, you unlawfully robbed them of life and liberty, you committed a crime. It's just a shame there aren't some prosecutions to go along with this 126-page report. Maybe there will be. And my message to City Hall after that, we'll hear from Attorney Bob McWhirter, is certainly for them to prepare themselves because, number one, this investigation isn't over. You have the 126-page report and the supporting documents, but the DOJ is not packing up their stuff and leaving. This is far from over, and it's not going to end well for them, I promise you, because God and truth is on our side.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes, in a little bit you'll hear from Sandy Slayton. Do you have any questions about consent decrees and what's going on in the court? I'm here to answer any of those and fill in what the legalities of all this. Well, I'll just kind of end, and Ms. Slayton will follow up with some of the clients. But the basic point we're making is this report has been sad, but not a shock. What's surprising is how clear the Department of Justice was. But it was not shocking to us who have been in the trenches with these cases for a long time. So I'm happy to answer any of the questions if you have them. I'm here for afterward if you'd like some background on consent decrees and where this thing is in the status. But I'll go ahead and defer to Ms. Slayton on some of the specifics here.
Well, I, like everyone else, I'm sorry.
You can lower it. You just want to lower the mics first.
Yeah, I would like to.
You did.
Thank you. Thank you. I, like everybody else, not just as a civil rights lawyer and a mother, and actually a grandmother, but as a citizen and a member of the community, was also shocked to read what I read yesterday and I heard on the news, like everybody else, with my mouth open. It was horrifying, but I'm glad that it's out in the open. What we have known for many years, myself, Mr. McWhirter, Jarrett, and other civil rights lawyers in the community, we are out in the trenches all the time in courts arguing, that our clients' rights have been violated. We get the phone calls from families that say, my son has been shot, what do I do? My daughter's missing or worse, dead. They won't give me a police report, what do I do? And these questions are coming to us all the time, and sometimes we have to file litigation. And so we've been telling the courts all of this for many years, and we will continue to, but I think this is a wake-up call for the community, and not just the City of Phoenix. The City of Phoenix is an example because the Department of Justice has been, in there, being able to look at everything all of these years. But I mean, all of the other police departments, not just in Phoenix, but around the country, have to also, own the fact that they have these same kinds of problems. And I just hope that we can continue to get our voice heard, and that this doesn't fall in the cracks, because I know in the news with the Ukraine and the Middle East war, and the election, it's easy to put the violation of people's civil rights at the bottom, but we need to keep pushing, because this is the most important thing in our country, and I mean, we can't just let it be quiet and walk away now that we have this report. We have to heal and make it better. And so that's why I'm trying to shout it from the rooftops. A lot of these people are my clients. I do have cases that I'm arguing to the courts all the time about violation of my client's civil rights. Whole families that have been taken down and brought in front of their house with no probable cause and held there for hours, guns pointed at people, people almost crippled for life. These are the kinds of things that we saw in the report, and these are the kinds of realities that I deal with, and Bob McWhirter, my counsel, deals with every day and every week, not just in the civil rights court, but in the criminal court as well. And I think one thing that came through in that report is the First Amendment revelations that we got. That was frightening to me as a citizen. I haven't read the attached 3,500 page attachment, but I'm told, and I don't know if it's accurate, but I'm told by good sources that even civil rights leaders such as Mr. Maupin and lawyers that have been standing in front of this microphone, like myself, and maybe even myself, that we've been mentioned, and if not me, other people. So I think that's really frightening as well. Like, this is reminiscent of, you know, the McCarthy era, and Hoover, and, you know, East Germany intelligence, and I could go on and on. But this is what's going on in our backyards, folks. And we have to make it better. And thank you for letting us voice our concerns, because, like, if you weren't here with your cameras and didn't let us speak, then it would just be another report that would be buried. So I'll turn it over to my partner now.
Come here a second. I told a couple of these young folks that they could have a chance to be on TV, but it does point out why we're doing what we're doing, because our hope is when these kids get to be up to the age where they become targets, that they're going to have a different police department in place. That they're going to have a police department where they don't have to be scared every time a police officer comes to them.
Amen.
The kids in the back of us, many of whom are our clients, they've already had that experience.
Amen.
They know what it's like. So the hope is, and this is why we're all doing this now, is the hope is that by the time these kids get up, they can look back on them and say how cool we were on TV, but it's even better that we're going to live in a city where we don't have to be afraid when we walk out and see the police department.
Yeah.
And I think we should make one other point. This report, in an unprecedented manner, talked about how the homeless have been victimized.
Yes.
And they have to be spoken about too, because we're talking about any marginalized group now can now become targets of the Phoenix Police Department and their actions. You walk down the street, you shouldn't be pulled over unless a police officer has at least reasonable suspicion that there's some criminal activity going afoot before that officer calls you aside and starts to pull you and all of a sudden search you and then goes on from there. People are accosted on the streets for no other reason that they don't have a home. Well, I'm sorry, the last time I read the Constitution, people who don't have homes still have the same rights that every other American has. They still have the same dignity and rights that every other person has. And so we're here for those folks as well. Often, they don't even have the voice to even go look for an attorney. The Reverend and a few others get folks to us, but a lot of these folks don't have anybody to speak for them or get them to a lawyer. And don't have much of a case, because you know, you abuse the rights of a homeless person, how much are they worth? So we're here to affirm the worth of everybody. And again, we're here for these guys here. So, thank you. Okay,
Certainly all of us are equal in the sight of God.
Amen.
Right? The high point of God's creation and nobody's footstool.
Amen.
Okay? And that's what Phoenix Police tried to do, is make our community a footstool for their abuses and their injustice. We're going to hear from a couple of people who are some frontline folks in what's going on. But I want to say one thing. For attorneys that are listening and others, really, Sandra Slayton and Bob McWhorter, let's put our hands together for them. They're to be commended. It takes a lot of strength to be on the side of community when the DOJ isn't there. We all just lived through this last decade, may as well have been the decade of 1960. Things here are worse than they are in Mississippi and Alabama. Don't let people tell you how bad it is there and you got it so good here. It ain't so good here.
Amen. Amen.
The DOJ said it's hell here. We're still in danger. They said people are still in danger.
Amen.
So to understand what they're doing, it's very brave. That's why every attorney in town isn't doing it. Because they got to go up against City Hall with their unlimited pockets and unlimited ability to lie. They have a precarious relationship with the truth and an inability to see the inherent worth and dignity in the lives of every man, woman, and child. I just don't understand when our city became such a center of hate, and all that hate directed at what they claim is the smallest demographic. You know, black folks. We're just a little blip, you know, in the demographics. Well, not really. We're at the brunt of a lot of what's going on. And before we have these two up, to the attorney's point, it must be said, a continuing struggle. Let me see a show of hands. I don't even have to turn around. If you're waiting on a report or information to come out from the Phoenix Police Department for your case, right? Isn't that affecting everybody in the building? And all the media is waiting too. So not only have they lied and continued to lie and violated people's rights and get busted by the Department of Justice, but they're continuing to withhold relevant material information that will in all likelihood further incriminate members of the police. Listen, this is a department that has officers who planted a crack pipe on a mentally ill woman and said it was a practical joke and sent her off to prison. They will do anything. They have done anything. They will lie. They will break the law and violate your civil rights and lie. They will shoot you in the back while you're walking or running away and lie. They will sexually assault you in their patrol vehicles and lie. They will say you were homeless and doing drugs at a bus stop and lie and cover it up because they thought they could and because someone told them they should. This problem is not healed, but we have that report, and that report is like having the manifest log for the Amistad, or like having Lincoln's notes for the Emancipation Proclamation. What does it really mean? It doesn't heal any of the injuries that the families had. It just affirms their experience and what they went through. All of these people have experienced spiritual and social traumas that will affect them for the rest of their lives. We are all lucky that we're even alive to have gone through this and dealt with this. And to know that you have to go home tonight, and what if something happens and you have to call the police? They might kill you. You could die. Blacks more likely to be pulled over for routine traffic violations, more times than any other group to be pulled over for the use of marijuana. It's disgusting. And you see it, and we get the calls and we get the complaints that the police are out there harassing our men and our women in their day-to-day lives. What's it going to take for them to understand that they've done wrong? How much blood is enough? The mayor, I got to study this. The city manager with his black ass, I got to study this. You don't have to. There's nothing to study. Jeff Barton, I'm calling you on the carpet, your racial integrity. I'm not going to be impressed with your chicken and chitlin eating. We got black lives on the line. These people have been dying and injured, and you're sitting up there, the chief executive of the 5th largest city in America, and you can't say after the DOJ report that your police department is systemically and institutionally racist? What do they got you by? Your integrity or your something else?
Have mercy.
Or just admit that you keeping your head down, you're a mid-level administrator that made it from finance up to administration and you don't want to lose your job, so Reverend, shut the hell up. But level with your people. We'll leave you alone. You know, if you're tramping for Whitey, we need to know, because we're being killed and we don't have time for these games, and the Department of Justice doesn't have time for them either. So with that, I want to bring someone forward to you. Two people, a young man who was almost killed by the Phoenix Police Department. He was attacked along with his girlfriend and their children, including an unborn child. And that attack was so ugly, it went viral and went around the world, international outrage. And even then, Sandy, we called for Department of Justice to step in and do what they needed to do. But Drayvon Ames is here to share some words about what he feels about this and and where we go from here. And as he comes forward, I want to say that he has a foundation, the Drayvon Ames Foundation, and they do more to help this community along with Black Women of Faith and a few other groups than any NAACP or Urban League combined. The whole brass, Sandy's a witness. We were at the NAACP dinner, the whole police department leadership there at the dinner, whole police department leadership there at the Urban League dinner. You can't be on the police payroll and on the police accountability effort at the same time. You got to figure out which tit you're going to be on, and our people are suffering in the meantime because there's a lot of black leaders that are for sale, including the 2 on the city council. One of them is a former cop who got fired or demoted or whatever for taking home videos and showing them to his friends about how they violate people's rights and abuse their civil rights. We know you, Kevin Robinson. You are a pig. So with that, Drayvon Ames, come forward.
I want to say one word before Drayvon speaks. Drayvon is my client and my friend, I am proud to say. I want it to be said here, I can't help, after reading that First Amendment part of the report, to be have a little bit of anxiety for every single person here today that is speaking, because I don't know if notes are going to be made about what we say, if we're going to be tracked with
Let 'em.
retaliation.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there, that even as we're speaking, I feel chilled, and I feel that every single person in this room, a little bit fearful for every single person in this room because of what is in that report and the attachments, that 3,500-page attachment. With that, I'm proud to have Drayvon speak.
Alright, so good afternoon everyone. Today we're gathered to discuss the findings of the investigation of the City of Phoenix Police Department report developed by the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. The report findings are not surprising, but they do validate the struggles of the black and brown people of the community, and that we have endured for years. As someone who has had encounters with the police and witnessed their operations, I consider myself lucky to have survived those experiences. I am grateful to have the opportunity to share with the community the documented evidence supporting the long-standing claims. We have been subjected to racial profiling and received harsher prison sentences. Looking over the report, I thought about the ordeal I went through 5 years ago. Despite black people making up only 7% of the total population, the findings indicate a violation of our rights under the Constitution and federal law. I feel that I must be a part of bringing change within our communities as it relates to racial biases. I founded the Drayvon Ames Foundation in July 2019 to be a strong advocate for the community improvement. The foundation ensures equal treatment for all individuals regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, economic status, disability, or religion. Our goal is to be inclusive of all people. My foundation aims to support the Let's Stay Alive podcast, and it is a powerful platform which I host and aims to make a significant impact by providing effective solutions to keep our communities and residents safe. We believe that our elected officials and law enforcement agencies must bring solid resources and plans to the table. We also strongly believe that our faith can play a vital role, just as we saw in past movements led by great leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, wherein the church catalyzed change. And I just want to say the findings that I've seen in the report were just terrible findings, and it's stuff that we've been screaming for years. We've been trying to get heard for years. It seems like it's been overlooked for years, and it's just finally a good feeling to know like it's been reported and documented by the Department of Justice. You know, like we're finally being heard, and this stuff been happening for years. People lost their lives, families going through trauma for years, and it's finally feels like we're being heard, and it's actual evidence of it all. So they need to sign a decree.
It's moments like this that make me really proud and anxious for our community. We're in an election year, and the actions of the Phoenix City Council, I would, how could they sleep with themselves considering their politics by continuing to terrorize and suppress and keep justice away from our community? They're driving people into the hands of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. If they don't do something about this, I blame them for what happens in the election, because they are dumping on black people and refusing to recognize their hurt, their pain, and we're going to redistribute that pain in the election and in the economy and doing whatever we have to do. Speaking to that, we have Kat McKinney, a wonderful warrior, organizer extraordinaire, probably responsible single-handedly for organizing most of the warm bodies in the major demonstrations we had over the past decade. Certainly all these folks in here today wouldn't be here without the infrastructure she's created, the movement that she's maintained. To speak about that and the cost that this all has had on the black family.
Hi, my name is Kat McKinney, and I'm with the Black Women of Faith. And I started the Black Women of Faith in 2010. Shortly after that, in 2012, well, we ran into the Trayvon Martin era. And it's been since the Trayvon Martin era that I've been here organizing protests and rallies for the families here. I've lived here for a long time, and some of the things that I have seen have been just unreal. I just want to thank the Department of Justice for finally hearing us, because it took them, I think, we started calling for them, I know, in 2014, Remain Brisbane, that case, and they just did this here in 2021. So it's been 3 years, they're working on the report. Of course, it's going to take more time, but the fact that they're doing it and is obviously a milestone for the people here in Phoenix. Like it's been said, there's not many black people here, but as according to statistics, many of the black people here in the city of Phoenix are victims. And like you said, we can't get everybody to lawyers, but we do try to help those who need help. And the ones that do go are only just a small handful of the ones that have really been affected here. So I get calls still every day. People need help for this or that. But what I want to say is the Department of Justice did a great thing with coming out. I was really shocked that they came out so hardcore with them. I was waiting for convictions, like listening to the things that they said, but these are not things that we don't know already exist. And so they validated a little bit of what we're saying. And so what I want to say too is I want the city of Phoenix, sign and settle. Get these people back on their feet, help them rebuild their lives, and do things that's going to make a difference for the people that you serve in this community. Thank you.
I must say, Sandy and Bob certainly see a lot of this, but Kat has been with me at every morgue visit, every mortuary visit, every funeral plan, from Remain to Michelle Cusseau to Jacob Harris to everybody that we've seen, all the way leading up to Cassidy Stiegler, Benjamin Austin, and folks here, everybody. I don't think that there was a high-profile killing by this department where we didn't have to deal with that. So you have to forgive us, certainly me, if we get a little salty in our speech. But I've seen enough dead black bodies at the hands of Phoenix police, and I know she has, that no one should have to see that. None of these families should have to go through it, but I shouldn't have to see my people flayed and dissected and disrespected, even by the county. It's awful, it's butchering, and it's the result of bullying, this unchecked violence from the police. There's so many families represented here today, so many victimized, and I don't know everyone's comfortability in terms of speaking and or taking questions, but I do want to open it up for members of the media to ask questions and allow the families to respond as they feel comfortable with what's going on. I can tell you in this room, with all of the pending litigation, there's more than $250 million of liability represented for the city. I can tell you that it only takes a few brave souls in executive session to make the decision at the city council meeting that they want to do right by these families. I don't understand, and the families don't either, why it has to become just so painfully obvious that the police violated the law when they killed and injured and destroyed the mental strength of these families with these experiences. Clearly, I just make my plea to them as human beings. Laura Pastor, you got to get worried about this. The black community doesn't care if they name the Central Station after your daddy. He's already got one named after him on Central and Broadway. We got appointees, people running back to get back on the city council. Michael Nowakowski, Michael, where you at with this stuff? Jim Waring, I'm going to pray for him. I'm going to pray for Jim that he dies on the right side of history, because right now he's living on the wrong side. That city council, they're regular people, and they need to understand. And it's just so shameful, their behavior, especially the Democrats on the city council. It's disgusting. We thought we were their special constituency, black folks. Well, I think one of them even said that they were on the city council and it was their job to protect us. They were going to take care of us. I think Laura said that. And I am picking on Laura today. Find the strength to do the right thing. Find the strength to do the right thing and restore our community. Remember the days of SB 1070 and the outrage? How could you do it? How could you do it? And hating our pile and hating this agency and that agency, or jumping on DPS. Now it's Phoenix PD and all's quiet on the Western Front. Why? Are the victims not worthy of championing? That's the question. And if we are, then say we are. If we are, then say we are. Because right now, black lives don't matter to the city of Phoenix and the Phoenix City Council. They proved it.
I think if I could just say, that should be the theme of the report. Black lives don't matter. I mean, we see that from the report. And I also want, the question I have is, if Dr. Martin Luther King were here reading this report, what would Dr. Martin Luther King say? I really wish I knew what he would say. What would he do? What would he say?
He would say that he's been to the mountaintop, and he would say that he wasn't fearing any man or institution, and that we were going to keep on fighting, and it doesn't matter what the city didn't do, and it doesn't matter what the city council didn't do. It's about what God is going to do. God is with us. And he sits on high, our grandparents said, but he looks down low. And he is with us every step of the way. And that where he leads us, we will follow. We serve a God of justice. We serve a God whose son was killed because of police brutality and misconduct. So God relates to our community. And with God on our side, we're always in the majority. And our message to the city is, with God, we'll go around you, over you, under you, and as the DOJ proved, we'll go through you. Like those bullets go through our bodies, we will go through you.
I got a question. Can I ask a quick question?
With the help of Dr. Martin Luther King's spirit as well.
Yes.
Absolutely. And our Jewish brothers and sisters, and all of our allies, we're not alone. We're far from alone. And we're baby's kids. We don't die, we multiply. You can try to kill us in the
I got a quick question. I just want to know, With this findings found, what is the next procedure as far as for a family that's been going through something like this, that's probably got a case pending or whatever? What's
Let me
the
tell
next
you, the
procedure?
city could sign a consent decree, but they're saying they won't because they want to take it to court and lose. That's what's going to happen. They don't want to end up like Albuquerque or LA was and other places where they had federal administrators to monitor them because they know they're crooked and corrupt and they can't fix what's going on. So there will be litigation. But to the families, that 126-page report and those supporting documents and all those public records are admissible in these court cases. And surely a jury will want to see and read these things, and they will definitely assist these families in a major way. I mean, when a jury gets to hear that the city lied about everything in your case, and the police violated your civil rights and broke the law, I think there's enough good-hearted Arizonans serving on those juries for them to come back the way we need them to. And in the state court, they don't have to be unanimous. In federal court, they do, but I say bring it on, because even though we're in little hellacious Arizona, we're in the Ninth Circuit, and that's still the promised land for justice. So if we got to fight them all the way to San Francisco or all the way to Washington, D.C., so be it. This report reads so plainly that even Clarence Thomas, I think, would understand and appreciate the struggle that black people are going through here. So it's very, very helpful to this. And to I'm going to take your question now, but I must say, to the credit rating agencies for the city, to the credit rating agencies that do the bonds for the city, I told you this day was coming, and that we were gonna bankrupt and empty the credit out of this city. If this report isn't enough to knock their credit rating down to a C-, triple C-, I don't know what it is. You can keep subsidizing the bonds for these cities if you want to. We're getting ready to sue the sin out of them, okay? We're not going to stop. We got to hit, white people, I'm sorry, with no offense to my friends, but they only understand a couple things from black folks: our vote and our dollars. You can't take our vote for granted, and our dollar, we're going to rip it out of your damn pocket if we have to. This is our city. It belongs to the residents here. And it's an awful thing when the federal government has to come in.
Do you think that any real change will happen locally after this DOJ investigation?
I think if they sign a decree and get monitored and get on the right path, there will be some change that happen. That's the whole point of their findings. They're letting them know there's a problem, and it's 126 pages of problems. And that's not even the ones that they don't know about, that they did successfully cover up, get away with. It's a lot of that goes on. They try to cover up many of cases and things like that. I have many of family friends that, people who've just been shot and dropped off at hospitals, and just all type of things that they covered up and just never heard about. What don't we know about? There's so many other cases. So I hope that the findings and the proof is in their face like this. It has to make some change.
My friend here is very diplomatic and articulate, and I commend him for the demonstrable display of self-control. But he was electrocuted by local police. He was beaten out of consciousness by local police. One thing in the name of Drayvon Ames and Devin Thompson and Cassidy Stigler and Benjamin Austin and all these people, and Ed Castro and Ed Brown, and it just goes on and on, the litany of names. One thing maybe we can get from this DOJ investigation, the horrors of it, is finally some drug testing for members of our police department. We don't even drug test them to know if they're on steroids or meth or Percocets or anything. We don't know what they're on, and you got to clearly be on something to have earned yourselves the worst written report the Department of Justice has ever issued against the police department. That's what we got.
And to the city, we just want to know what happens next. What do you guys plan on doing next? Because they don't want to sign a decree. So what plans do you guys have to make sure the families that's been, when it's obvious that people of color have been racially profiled, there's been biases with pullovers, tickets, prison sentences, and all that. So how do you fix the problem that's already had? people's lives are at stake. People can't work because of records, you know what I mean? And then people that aren't black or of color, they give them a pass almost in a sense. Like it's not equal, and we're supposed to be created equal. So what happens next to do some damage control to the things that have already been done?
Did
The city
DOJ
is also
ever-
racist in its settlements with people too. If these were all white men and women who were related to the comptroller or a member of the city council in New York, they'd be paid already. We remember the Gottbaum case where she was in police custody and allegedly hung herself in her own chair at the airport. I mean, when you see misconduct, when the city wants to do something, they do something. When they want to build a stadium, they do it. When they want to change ordinances or give themselves a pay raise like they're trying to do this year, they do it. So, to me, it's going to reach the point where we're going to have to open it up and say anyone who was victimized by the city of Phoenix join this giant black class action lawsuit
Yes.
against the city, because we're sick and tired of it. And that
That's
could be all of us.
That's
That
next.
that could be all of us.
That's what's next.
Did any of the organizations or anybody who has a case against the police department have any kind of conversations with the DOJ directly?
Yeah, they
all of us
all
spoke to the DOJ.
everyone
yeah,
has.
sure.
They contacted people personally to get their story, so they did their due diligence. They tried to make sure they got it right. They got their findings, and they had facts behind their findings. They reached out and had our conversations with a lot of the people who went through things. So a lot of the stories and a lot of the facts that they found in their reports finding is coming directly from the people.
Is Ed Castro here?
I thought I saw him somewhere, but I don't know for sure. I thought I saw his sister.
Got another
too.
question?
Yeah, up here quickly for Draymond. First, I'm sorry to hear what happened to you, but if you wouldn't mind sharing the status of your case right now and what you're hoping for, looking forward with yourself and what happened to you.
If you
Is your lawyer. The case from 2019 was settled, so that, that is behind us. I think Javon's here for the bigger picture. We had another case against the city of Tempe that did go through the courts, and unfortunately, we did not prevail on that case. And without talking about the specifics of Javon's case, another thing, and I don't know whether this is in the Justice Department report or not, but a pattern happens, not just with the city of Phoenix, but with all the police departments all across the nation. If something happens to a person of color, or, black, brown, Hispanic, but it could be anybody, and they're worried about it, what they do is, and this is generally speaking, they bring the person into the criminal justice system and they indict them, they charge them with something, and it becomes very difficult to then the person is saying, well, on the one hand, I have a possible prison sentence if I'm convicted, and on the other hand, I want to fight my civil rights case. It becomes very difficult.
If
And I would like to touch on it just a
There's
little
one
bit.
case, the case of Ed Brown, for example, where he was shot 2 times in the back running away from police, and they made him choose whether to forfeit that lawsuit and not go to jail for such a long time, or go to jail for selling pills to an undercover cop that set him up. They followed him from his house. You know what I'm saying? The DOJ report shows us like how they gamed up the charges against Ed Brown. So they're trying to make him choose between these multi-million-dollar settlements and what's really going on. And in the case that they died, they just make up things. Oh, they were a prostitute. Oh, they were a pimp. Oh, they were this. It's just absolute fabrication. Absolute.
Yeah.
Javon,
And,
Javon wants to say
and the fact that my case, I was beaten up by the cops and tased and choked unconscious, and it just got completely dismissed, and I was charged with assault on the officers as their backup plan or a way that they can be like, okay, he did this, and there's no evidence that I assaulted anyone. But that just goes to show how they'll put a charge on you to save their own. And that's happened with many people. I'm not the only person that happens with.
And as far as anybody, I'm sorry, as far as anybody who might be in similar shoes to you, having read that report, seeing this news yesterday, anyone who's had a similar experience, what would you like them to hear?
That hopefully change is coming. I believe it is. There's documented evidence that you know, you're not crazy. What you went through is going to come out. It's going to be heard, and just to stay strong and continue to do what you can to help and share your story, however you can. Change is coming. Change is coming.
And that's important. We got folks here today right now that are going through it. Back here, you couldn't see him because we were standing here, but Devin Thompson's here. He's sitting in the chair. He's still partially paralyzed and injured from being shot in the back. You know, no weapon or anything in his hands or anything, just shot in the back by Phoenix PD. He's one of the cases that traumatized the investigators from the DOJ. The other was the Jacob Harris case. I preached Jacob Harris's funeral on Martin Luther King Day, the year he died, at Grace Lutheran Church. And we went to watch the secondary autopsy. The cops shot him in the back, thought his cell phone was a gun, and then left him to die after, what, 7 minutes, 8 minutes? They sent the German Shepherd, the police dog, to go drag his body back to their squad cars. So they're capable of anything. And
Killed Dion too.
My prayers are with Roland, his father. He'll never be the same. It's ruined that man's life.
Yes, Drayvon, or anybody else who has had an experience with litigation against the police department, could you speak a little bit about what it takes and how it feels for you, you know, mentally, emotionally, physically, to stand up against this system that has hurt you?
I want to say it's tough. It's not an easy task. You know, there's a big bullseye on you. You know, you fear, you have PTSD. There's a lot of things, you know, because you know that they try to cover up, or even worse, you know, they've killed people and all type of. So you know, it's very tough. But you want to do what's right. You want to trust that everything's going to be okay.
And then also, if I could just say, in litigating with Drayvon, and I'm so proud of him. I just have to say how proud I am of him. You're always, as the attorney, even today, you're always, you know, trying to balance the criminal justice system, civil, and the criminal justice system. And this is the trap that so many all across the country people are in. Once they charge you, then you know it's a fact that you are looking at either going to prison if you get a wrong jury, or you know something bad happens in the criminal justice system,
And the retaliation.
and then retaliation as well. And that is in the just DOJ report.
And also, we go through public slander. They try to slander you from things of years ago when we're talking about what's going on now, what's going on today. You know, they try to destroy your character publicly. Like, they go for findings. They withheld, some of the other counties withheld videos, but when they feel like they want to try to slander the person's character, they'll give it up to the police.
This is on, you're talking on the broad.
I'm just broad
Yeah.
spectrum. They'll give it up when they're trying to just destroy someone's character, but when people are willingly trying to get it to fight against you guys, they won't give up simple video
Evidence.
footage, police reports,
We
things
have
like that.
cases. We have cases. We're still waiting for a police report. For instance, from 7 months ago or 8 months ago, and then they'll say, well, there isn't any police report. It was canceled. It was just an incident report. That's just one case in point, and
That's
it's taking up to that right.
The Dodd case, I'd have to jump in, Sandy, and say this too. The city says that they don't release these reports because they're understaffed. I mean, if ever there was a time for you to move some people around, I've seen some pretty fat, lazy cops. And I think they can all be over there on East Grant Street digging through their paperwork and microfilm and everything else. And put down their donuts and do their due diligence and get these people their reports and information from over there at that public records building. I mean, it's really, really ridiculous. There is so much redundancy in the employment at City Hall that for them to say that they don't have enough people to sort through reports and get body camera footage and information out to people, it doesn't make sense. And as far, you can't see the officer's face, we got to hide them, obscure them. At this point, we don't care. Put a big black or white square over their face and let's get on with it. there's information that we need to have. People's murders are on film, and we need them for the civil suits.
People are waiting, going on 2 years now.
Sure.
For body cams, just for body cams. But I just want to say, because, you know, I have to be fair, at least on my behalf, and I think Mr. Ames and all of us agree, most cops, despite all of this, and despite the Department of Justice report, most cops do mean well. They don't sign up to be cops to hurt people. They really, most cops do want to help. But unfortunately, this kind of virus through these police departments throughout the country ruins it for the cops that are wonderful.
And if we can qualify that, most cops do want to be right. But the DOJ report does say that the vast majority of them live in fear of their colleagues and of retaliation and being hazed and harassed on the job. I mean, there were even black cops who found nooses hanging in their lockers and stuff in their precincts.
Wow.
So you know,
Wow.
and I don't want to say their names, but I will. You know, Cheatham and all the rest of these black cops need to get some damn guts and talk about what the hell's going on. I
Right.
mean, that's what you got a union for, right? I mean, unless the union is racist too.
Yeah. Any other questions about these cases?
I got one more question. I just
Dangle.
is it a proof? Is it written in the report that they are withholding evidence?
What's written in the report is that they are slow to get evidence, and we also experientially know that they're slow. So they will release certain things to the press that makes them look good, but to get the real videos and all that stuff, we wait months and months and months.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You have 180 days to file a notice of claim when something happens in this situation. So they know if they can make you wait to day 179 or even after that, you have your initial claim against the city will be weaker and have to be amended.
Let me give you an example of what goes
Yes,
on.
sir.
Whenever there's an incident with the police, you will often, all of you at the press, get released a nice glossy little Hollywood version where the public relations officer in his uniform with everything polished shows a video from the police webcams, right, the body cams.
Yes,
right?
sir.
That's an edited video. They have edited that
Oh,
so that
wow.
you see what they want to see and the spin they want to have.
Wow.
Now, we wait then months and months to get the real videos from which they edited those bits out.
Okay.
And that's where you have a huge discrepancy. And this bumps up against notice of claims. You have 6 months to file a notice of claim in the courts. That's the statutes.
Okay.
So when you're waiting all this time for videos, you're bumping up against that 6 months before you can even file your letter, and you run the risk of just getting precluded because you didn't have the evidence. Now you can try to do things with newly discovered evidence, etc. But this is part of the game that goes on.
Right.
Okay, and so that's what we are concerned with, and that's of course our big headache as lawyers. So,
Yes, sir.
yeah. But by the way, I would show some caution every time you members of the media get that nice glossy little thing from the Phoenix Police Department's public relations group about some shooting that occurred.
Yes, sir.
Realize you're getting an edited, produced video version
Oh,
of
wow.
what went on here.
Also, I want to say Sandy successfully defended me and everybody else that stood up against Sean Pena. The cop was accused of sexually assaulting women. When he tried to sue us in federal court and silence us for what we said, the case got tossed, it completely fell apart, and so it feels good. So you can trust and replay what we said because we stand by it.
I also say that both the Reverend and Ms. Slayton, we are given to understand, are actually mentioned in the DOJ report. I feel kind of left out, actually. But in other words, it's not that they were mentioned, it's that the police have them identified
Okay.
as problems.
Right.
And that's what the DOJ report implied, and that's what Ms. Slayton and Mr. Moffett was talking about, the First Amendment violations going on.
Oh, wow.
Not just the violations of people's rights on the
They're
street.
taking away people's freedom of speech?
Well, and also we take stands, so the idea is these are identified problems.
You know what?
Yeah.
We want to get a couple more families up here.
Let's get some
Any
families
more
up.
questions for family members? We're going to also let more of them speak that are comfortable.
Yes,
Miss Jackie Bryant, she would like to, yes. And make her next.
First, I want to start off by reading you what the definition of civil rights is. Civil rights refers to the fundamental rights of freedom granted by individuals by the government and protected by law. Civil rights are an expansion and significant set of rights designed to protect individuals from unfair treatment. Where are these civil rights anymore? I am the mother of Keith Childress Jr., who not was killed in this city for walking black with a cell phone, but in another city. I won't go into his case because I finally got my day in court Monday. So I just want to let you know is that everyone needs to stand up. I never in life thought I would be standing here today talking about my dead black son. Never. What I do want to say is when your kids come home and saying they're being profiled, don't tell them that they've been out there doing something wrong, because that was me. After my son was murdered, like Scarface, he wasn't just shot once down. He was walking down the street with a cell phone and was shot down like Scarface. Okay? That's really hard to take in as a mother. It's hard for me to take in when I see all these videos of these other family members. It's mentally exhausting.
That's why we get up every day and do what we do.
Yes.
When we hear that.
Yes.
I hear that over and over again.
We will never be the same. We'll never be the same. And it takes everyone to stand up and fight. It's not going to just be the protesters that you see in the street. Everyone needs to stand up and say, stop. Stop.
The government owes us that.
That's right.
They owe us to come in and do what they're supposed to do to ensure that we do have these civil rights.
And it's been 8 years for me. 8 years. And I never stopped. They tried to scare me. They try to do as they said. They'll scare you. They'll sit by your house. They'll stop you for no reason. They'll stop your other children for no reason to scare you to back off. I'm not backing off. I can't bring back my son, but hopefully I can save yours. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
I'll bring up another lady here named Miss Mika.
Hello, my name is Shamika Thomas. I'm the auntie of the 14-year-old girl that was beaten up by the police officer. We just want to know. We just want to thank them for actually coming out and saying that they believe us. You know, we did lose hope. We did lose all type of faith. But knowing that them papers came out and now we are seeing some type of result happen, we are thankful. But we are not here to forget anything that's been going on with us, because till today, my niece still have PTSD from it. So, thank you.
I'm representing her too.
That's good. Thank you, Sandy. We thank these lawyers. Yes, sure. Let someone else say.
I'm Sharon Thomas Bradley. That's my daughter. And that's my granddaughter. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there when that was all going down. But I do thank this lady right here because she confirmed something that we all know and have been hearing for years. And she pointed out to my granddaughter, and she had her skin out. And she said, unfortunately, because of the color of your skin, you are a target, and you will always be target. My granddaughter, she loved to talking to police officers. She had pictures taken with police officers. But now, she's very afraid of officers. She shakes. She had dreams. And when I thought nothing was going to happen, and the Reverend called me last night, after 2 years, my heart bleeds for all of us. Because at the end of the day, this color has nothing to do with what God developed.
That's right.
Because we all bleed the same blood at the end of the day. And that's what we need to recognize. We all are brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus. And instead of us doing all this to each other, or mainly us, we need to get down on our knees. Because God said, you can't get nothing from me except going through the Son, Jesus Christ. And I think all of us are doing what God and Jesus are supposed to be doing, taking on their job. And their job is too big for us, for any of us. But to be abused and victimized, It needs to stop. And I thank these people for standing here, finally getting some justice for us.
We thank
I just want to say one more thing. Somebody asked a question before, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this. I'm talking about Democrat versus Republican. I have to personally thank the Biden, the Justice Department, the DOJ under the Biden administration. I am convinced, if there is any doubt in anybody's mind, that this would not be happening under a Trump Justice Department. And I don't care what anyone says. So that's my appreciation as a civil rights lawyer, as a citizen, as a mother and a grandmother. Thank you, DOJ, and it is under the Biden administration, lest we not forget. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Callie Stigler, and I am the oldest, well, one of the oldest sisters of Cassidy Stigler. Today we come together as one, knowing that the city is found basically guilty. I still feel numb. I still can't believe she's gone, but the fact that y'all feel like y'all killed another minority, a sister, a daughter, and a mother, and the fact that y'all thought y'all was gonna get away with it, it's very sickening. Just because you seen her on the streets, she still had a home and a family that loved her dearly. And for me to see my sister all beat up, like she was strangled to death, broken. I still see her laying there when I close my eyes. I just would like to know who killed her. What was her last moments? Did you look into her eyes as she cried or gasped for air or called for her mom or her siblings? We may never know what really happened to her, what happened in her last moments of life. Today I speak for not just me, but for my sister Cassidy. This is not right. I didn't deserve this, and I didn't deserve for my life to be cut short. As a descendant of Rosa Parks, we still stand up and we fight. We will fight what's right. We will get justice. We will end this with my sister Cassidy. You must, from a quote from Rosa Parks, you must never be fearful about what you are doing when it is right. This has to stop. When is it going to stop? Justice for my Cassidy Stigler, my baby sis. We love and miss you dearly, and we hope and pray we get justice.
Bob and I are trying to get, and Jared Maupin is helping us, we are trying to also get justice for the Stigler family and for the tragic death of Cassidy Stigler as well.
Yes. Do you have any other family members? I do. Speak, yes or no?
I just want to speak quickly and just remind people in my case that my children are still severely traumatized, as only were we detained and held at gunpoint by several officers, but they were also held at gunpoint and were detained illegally.
It is the Dodd case for those of you back at your newsroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are also trying to get justice for this family as well.
And as a mother, explaining to your children that are supposed to protect them are the ones that were not protecting them was one of the hardest things that I had to do. And now every time that we see a cop car, my kids are reminded of the night that we were swarmed by helicopters. We were dragged out of our homes, and we were forced to be detained illegally when we had done nothing wrong. And I just want everyone to remember that.
For how many hours? Just so
For about 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, we were detained in handcuffs as my kids were outside in the middle of winter, as we were cooking food on my mom's birthday. So not only are adults being affected by this, but children and babies and toddlers are also being affected by police brutality, racism, and just unjust and corruption. And I just want everyone to go home tonight and just remember that there are kids that are severely traumatized and that are afraid by people that we're supposed to protect them.
Let me also say, in her particular case, and Sandy can speak to it, that while we have witness statements from them and their neighbors, and we know that it happened, the police department has taken the same approach that they have in several cases, and they're denying that it occurred. We have the incident
Well, I don't know
number,
that they're denying
but
that
right,
it occurred,
they're not
but
releasing
they're
the
not
report.
releasing the report.
So we're waiting. We want
Body
to, if there's
cams.
nothing to hide in the Dodd case, show us the body camera footage. Why just give us the incident report number? Show us the body camera footage, show us the report if it's completed, if it is, and show us why. I mean, you had to scramble, the ghetto bird to go over there and you had kids at gunpoint. We should be seeing this. Surely there was something or someone they were after. But that's what we mean. And that was after the DOJ initiated this. A lot of these cases happened about half before and half after. The city is not changing its behavior. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So that something has to give. You got to put the dog down and let the DOJ do what they got to do, which is run that department.
So thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
If there's anybody else, we're kind of getting late in the hour here. Is anybody else we can talk? I think that's about it. I don't want to cut anybody off. Is there any other?
But certainly feel free to talk to everybody.
Any other questions anybody have?
Y'all did it. Y'all answered all the questions. Y'all did a great job.
Well, thank you all very much.
Thanks for having
the
us.
media too. You guys are part of the victims of this too, with the withholding of information. Right. And you guys are doing God's work, digging for the truth there in those situations. You can lose your life doing it. So I thank you all for that. On behalf of everybody, thank you.
Thank you.